Okay, in this video, we're going to start with question 64, 65. I think the video cut off on question 64. And actually, I told you guys before in class that if a question's going to take too long, we're just going to keep moving. So 64 is just going to take too long, so we're going to skip 64. And actually, question 65, due to the length of it, we're going to skip that as well. We haven't really done this in class, so once again, I'm going to roll the dice and say we're not going to see that on the EOC, but in class, I'll address it if need to. All right, question number 66. Express 2 radical 97 in terms of I. First off, I know it's going to be an I because of the fact that this is a negative inside the radical. Okay, so whenever you have two radical, or actually just anything negative in the radical, you know you're going to have an I outside the radical some way. So because of that, I know that C and D will not be my answers. Okay, and so from here, when you take the I out, 97 stays positive. And so what happens is we already have this 2 on the outside, so this 2 will never go negative. And so this 2 will never go negative, so just through that, we know the answer is going to be A. All right, solve the equation, 2x squared plus 72 equals 0. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 72 here, subtract 72. I get 2x squared is equal to negative 72. I then, from here, I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x squared is equal to negative 36. I'm going to take the square root of negative 36 because that's how I d-square something. And once again, because of the fact that we're dealing with the negative 36, I know I'm going to have an I in my answer. So I already know D is not going to be the answer. But 36 is a perfect square, so it's going to be plus or minus 6I. So my answer is C. All right, 68. Find the values of x and y to make the equation true. All right, so if you remember, real numbers are anything that does not have an I attached to it. So I would say 5x is equal to negative 35. So x equals negative 7. So that eliminates a possibility. Oh, B and C are gone. All right, secondly, I'm going to take my two imaginary numbers, which is 6I and negative 24yi, and set them equal to each other. 6I is equal to negative 24yi. Set them equal to each other. Now the i's cancel because there's i's on each side. Okay, so I'm going to then take negative or 6 divided by negative 24, and my answer is going to end up being A. All right, let's keep going. 69. What are the values of x to satisfy x squared plus 8x plus 32 equals 0? Now, from here, I'm going to tell you, based upon all my choices here, I know that it's not going to factor. All right, so we already know that it's not going to factor. So what I would use is the quadratic equation. So negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now remember, in this problem, a is equal to 1 because that's the number in front of the x squared, b is equal to 8, and then lastly c is equal to 32. All right, so question number 70, find the complex conjugate of 5i plus 7. Now the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to rearrange this because the real number, it goes real number plus imaginary number. So that's 7 plus 5i. The conjugate means the opposite. So basically all we're doing is the opposite of our imaginary number. So that means my answer is 7 minus 5i. 71, write the result of the form a plus bi. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the real numbers, and then we're going to add the imaginary numbers. Now we're in parentheses here. Remember, in class I told you to take whatever's on the outside of the parentheses and multiply it in. Well, there's nothing, so you always assume it's plus 1. This addition sign gets distributed in. That's like saying plus 1, so it's 4 plus 3i plus 5 plus 9i. So I add all my i's up. I get, well, actually it's 9 plus 12i. Real numbers get added, imaginary numbers get added. Let's keep going. Rewrite 3x to the 7th power in rational exponent form. All right, if you remember, our answer is going to look like x 7 over 3. Now, how do we get that? Remember, the numerator of my exponent stays with the base. The 3 gets thrown out of outside of the radical here, like that. So my answer is x 7 over 3. I think that's 7 over 3. All right, rewrite this. All right, this is the exact opposite. So we have x 9 over 5. I'm going to take 9, stick it to the x. I'm going to bring 5 on the outside. So it's 5 radical x to the 9th power, which is d. All right, express 192. 192 is not a perfect square, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 192 and I'm going to break it down into prime factorization. All right, so here it is. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 twos, and 1, 3. Now, here's going to be my final answer. If you remember, anything that you're able to make a pair of, you put on the outside. So I was able to make one pair of twos, I put 1 and 2 on the outside. Another pair of twos, put another 2 on the outside. Another pair of twos, put it on the outside. And I'm left with the 3, which goes inside. Now, what do I do with these 3 twos out here? I'm going to multiply them together. So it's 2 times 2 times 2, which gives you C, 8 to the radical 3, or 8 radical 3. All right, simplify the expression x 5 over 3, it looks like. Assume that x is positive. All right, so whenever I have an exponent over an exponent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the exponents. So I go x 5 over 3 minus 2 over 3. That's what it looks like. So 5 minus, see, the denominators are the same, so I don't know why I put that x in there. All I'm doing is just dividing or subtracting my fractions here. So it's 5 over 2, or subtract that, I get 3 over a common denominator, which is 3. 3 over 3 is equal to 1. So that's what my exponent is. So my final answer is going to be x to the 1 power, which means it's just x. 76. For any two polynomials n and m and n, where n is non-zero, write an expression that which might not be a polynomial. A polynomial means 2 parts. Okay, so a polynomial means 2 parts. So like, for example, if m represented, I'm making this up, x plus 3, and then n is equal to, making this up, x plus 4. Well, you can add this, which gives you a polynomial, so this is yes. You can subtract it, which ends up being a polynomial, yes. All right. You can even multiply them, which is yes. So the one that you can't would be D. 77. Which of the following is true about the graph of the function that is y-intercept is 3? That's true, because remember the C is always going to be your y-intercept, so that's true. So good job. The vertex is -1, 2. Well, the vertex, the way you figure it out is it's negative b over 2a, and then you plug in whatever that is for y, or n for x to find y. So b is 2, so that'd be -2 over 2 times 1. Kind of writing weird here. 2 times 1. That gives you -1 for my x coordinate. And I'm going to take -1, plug it into here to figure out what my y coordinate is. And that ends up being +2. So yep, that's a true statement as well. All right, the x-intercept is -1. Well, the x-intercept is -1. That means the graph only intersected the x-intercept only once. Well, if I was to factor this, let's see. Actually, if I just graph it, that ends up not being a true statement. So statement number 3 is my false statement. So let's see. Statements 1 and 2 are true. All right, 78. Which of these functions do not have zeros at -1 and 4? Very simple. All you're doing is zeros means solutions. So if you already have answers, take -1, plug it in for the x's. See if it makes a true statement. Meaning, I'm sorry, let me restate. Take -1, plug it into the equation to see if y ends up being 0. What is y? Y is f of x. So you're basically just figuring out which of these problems where I can plug in -1 and 4 to make a true statement. All right, where y is equal to 0. Which of the following is the graph negative x squared plus 2? Well, first off, that being a negative x squared, that means our parabola is going to open down. So that means anything that's opening up, that is a no-no. All right, secondly, it is this plus 2. That is my y-intercept. So that's the y-intercept. So anything that has a plus 2 for y-intercept works. My answer is A because my y-intercept is right here. And that's question 79.